It was the single deadliest massacre of Turkish citizens by the PKK terror group in years. 13 killed execution style in a cave complex in northern Iraq. The victims had been taken hostage over the past few years, and their rescue was a top priority for the Turkish military. Their bodies were discovered on February the 14th in the Gara region, about 120 kilometers east of Mosul. Turkey initiated operations Claw Eagle and Claw Tiger in the area last June to prevent cross-border attacks. The PKK secured a foothold in northern Iraq as it battled the Daesh terror group back in 2014. Meanwhile, the diplomatic fallout is already brewing. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan blasted the U.S.'s initial response to the killings and Washington's long support for the PKK Syrian branch, the YPG. Labeled as a terrorist group by the U.S. and the European Union, the PKK has waged a three-decade war against Turkey, resulting in the deaths of at least 40,000 people. Will this latest atrocity be a wake-up call for Washington about finally addressing its direct support to terror groups that are attacking a NATO ally? And to answer that, joining me from Istanbul is Matthew Bryza. He is a former U.S. ambassador. And from Ankara, Murat Aslan, who is a faculty member of Hasan Kalyoncu University. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you on the program. Murat, how will this heinous act impact Turkey's fight against terrorism, not only in Iraq, but in northern Syria?
Well, it's really a significant event because at the end of the day, we have civilian losses over there. They were kidnapped by PKK and were executed in case a military campaign was started in the neighborhood. And PKK claims that they are arrested. That means, as if they are a legal entity. But if they are arrested, as they claim, they must be kept in proper conditions, not in a cave and not in a, brutal environment. And it's not an excuse to end the lives of these kidnapped individuals. So we will see the outcomes because Turkey is very determined to respond this act in the coming days. Maybe some series of operations may be witnessed, but it's also a probable friction between Turkey and the United States because Turkey believes that the United States is in close support to sister organizations of PKK.
We'll get into that. So the U.S. State Department's initial statement, which seemed to have downplayed this incident, triggered, let's say, fierce reaction from Turkey because Washington, as a staunch NATO ally, knows very well about the PKK. If you will, I just want to briefly go over the long list of terrorist attacks by the PKK over the last 3 decades. One of the deadliest includes the 1987 attack in Pınarcık in Turkey's southeast, which left 30 civilians dead, including 16 children and 6 women. 6 years later, in May 1993, 30 off-duty soldiers were killed in an attack in Bingöl in the country's east. And more recently, in 2016, 36 civilians were killed and 125 others injured in the Güven Park bombing in the capital, Ankara. So, Matthew, what's your take on the U.S.'s conditional condemnation message, which started with an if?
Yeah, for the rest of the statement was good because it said the U.S. stands staunchly with its NATO ally, Turkey. But having drafted a lot of public statements while serving at the White House and State Department about U.S.-Turkey relations, even about the PKK, it's really inappropriate to add that conditional statement, that if, because NATO ally Turkey told Washington that this discovery was made of this heinous crime in the middle of an anti-PKK operation. So by including that phrase, if confirmed, it means that the State Department was calling into question the veracity of the report and therefore whether Turkey was telling the truth. There's nothing to be gained by including a conditional phrase like that. I think what it shows is just how deep the mistrust is now between Washington and Ankara, and that's got to turn around.
So how is it going to turn around, Murat? How could the two countries cooperating in fighting terrorism under such circumstances and this mistrust?
There's already ongoing cooperation against countering terrorism between the United States and Turkey. But the problem is if it's already functional or not. It seems that it's not functional because the spokesperson explanation with a conditionality shows that there's a bias towards Turkey counterterrorism efforts just in the offices of the State Department. That means there's a prejudice that is injected to the minds. And it's clear that if such an attitude continues, I think Turkey will review exactly what to do by herself in the region, because Turkey cannot be dependent on countering terrorism with the allowances or permission or just approval of another country, even though it's the United States or not, because we experienced it more than 40 years here in Turkey, and it will not continue as such.
So, Matthew, how could both countries build confidence in conflicting areas, let's say?
If I'm an optimist, I would say that it was good that the day after this conditional statement by the State Department, Ambassador Satterfield came out and said it was, of course, the PKK that conducted the attack. And then Secretary of State Blinken and Foreign Minister Çavuşoğlu, after their conversation, the State Department did unambiguously come out and say it was the PKK. So I hope that this horrible incident may be reawakened in the new leadership of the Biden administration, the fact that the PKK is a terrorist organization, and hopefully that realization could maybe lead to some more cooperation over time in Syria. But the problem is going to remain when it comes to the YPG. I know from my government experience, the YPG is the PKK. It's the same organization, just in a different geographic location. But that is a very inconvenient political truth for the United States, since it has chosen to partner with the YPG in fighting Islamic State or Daesh in Syria. Mm-hmm. I don't see a way out of that Gordian knot. And both sides have to compromise, and neither can. So I think they may need to try to work on other issues for a while and rebuild an atmosphere of trust, maybe in the Eastern Mediterranean, for example, where I think that there can be some progress.
So, but we also have this S-400 issue. Murat, do you believe the U.S.'s support for the YPG and somewhat hinges on Turkey's next move on S-400s? Because the U.S. says Turkey cannot even retain the missile defense system.
S-400 is just an interface of many problems, because S-400 is an outcome, not the root cause of the problems. And S-400 may be a kind of, issue that both countries can compromise, because if you delve this issue in terms of a technical need, a technical analysis, I think the region needs S-400 like a defense system, because if the threat is Iran's ballistic missiles, there's no other system in the region to prevent or deny any kind of attack attempt, because Turkey's front to Iran is totally a gap at the southeast flank of NATO. So I think there must be a coordination regarding S-400. Maybe they can, analyze exactly what gaps we have as alliance, and they can conclude a common agreement.
So, but Matthew, how could this latest flare-up impact NATO alliance, which eyes post-Trump reset?
Well, I think the NATO alliance is weakened when Turkey is feeling so aggrieved. And President Erdogan even made a remark alluding to maybe because of the lack of respect for Turkey's worries about PKK, maybe Turkey isn't so interested in being part of NATO anymore. I don't think Turkey's going to leave NATO, but there are, France has been questioning whether Turkey belongs in NATO. So this is a serious problem. And I don't see any compromise possible, or readiness, I should say, in Washington to compromise in S-400s. As you said, Aisha, the Biden administration's position is the same as the Trump administration. Turkey must not activate those missiles. And President Erdogan's been as clear as he could possibly be. He said, of course, we're going to activate them. And a deal's a deal. So both of these issues, YPG and S-400, are causing an impasse in U.S.-Turkey relations. And I'm an optimist at heart, but I'm not so optimistic that there's an easy way to resolve either of these. And we could be in for a very difficult path for a long time in U.S.-Turkey relations and Turkey's relations with the rest of NATO.
Yeah, okay. It seems it's going to be a bumpy period for the Turkey-US relations, gentlemen. Unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining us on Straight Talk.